Okay, recording this video for close of trade Wednesday, 9th of November 2011. Apologies, this video will hit the website a little bit late just because I'm recording this the next day in France. Well, what a day. I mean, it was down 50 or something like that, about 2.6 million contracts traded. The question is this the beginning of something bigger? Didn't, funnily enough, signal as an exhaustion selling bar on better volume as we'd kind of had in kind of capitulation moves like here and here, from which we reverse. I think we'll get a little bit of a bounce because there was, all the sellers have sold at this point, but the bounce is going to be fairly weak. And I got to tell you, I mean, most of the subscribers are in North America, and so you're kind of used to your own kind of news streams that you get over there. But sitting here in Europe, there ain't no good news. It's just extraordinary what's happening in the last few days over the weekends. We've got prime ministers falling over left, right, and centre. Politicians arguing about who should be in charge next, and frankly, the politicians really don't have the answers to this, and they couldn't, putting the policies in place in a short period of time in order to get Europe out of this mess. The fundamental problem is that the design of the euro didn't have a lender of last resort, as you have in the US, to save to some extent the bond market in the US. And now that Italy's yields have spiked over 7%, people are saying, well, Italy is too big to fail. So the question is, I mean, it comes down to a fundamental argument: will the ECB monetize or not? Will they buy Italian bonds in enough quantity in order to stop the rot and bring the yields back in? And of course, because of the German psyche and the Bundesbank kind of type rules that are in place in the construct of the euro and the eurozone, that's unlikely. So frankly, here we have a battle between massive forces, and everybody now can see the problem plain as day and see that there is no answer in sight. So that's my kind of bear speak. Let's have a look at some charts. In terms of cycles, this trend move that we had bounced off this kind of lurch down to a new level, and we kind of retraced back. I was saying, we'd have to, from this level, psychologically, I had to get ready for a move back up to 1200, and once we broke 1200 to 1300, well, we never quite got to 1300. We got into the 80s and 90s, but this move was not going to be over until we got a pullback to end of trend sequence on the 135-minute chart, which is what we got. That was kind of Friday into Monday, and then we kind of pushed past it, had a little bit of an overshoot signal here, and then just on the Tuesday night just totally collapsed. Now what's interesting, so this end of trend on the lower time frame is coinciding on the weekly time frame with the cyclical turn kind of coming up here, and what's interesting, that cyclical turn is actually also into support becomes resistance. So for me, this is a really important point. So just remember, when you're looking at your daily charts, when you get an overshoot situation like this, the next place up where this overshoot could come to an end, it either turns into a trend move or it stops at a resistance point. The next point to look at is the resistance level on the next highest time frame up, which is the weekly chart. So the resistance there. The other side of things is, this becomes a band, that becomes the resistance level. Then on the bottom we've got this resistance level. Does this become support as this turns into a trend move? I kind of think not, just because the news is so bad, but 1200 is now the line in the sand on the way down. If we start to break that, then basically 1100 is kind of the next level down. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. So let's see how strong this little bounce that we get over the next day or two, because at this point we had a huge amount of selling. All the sellers have sold. We'll get a little bit of a technical bounce. Let's see how strong that is, and then kind of continue on. Certainly the amount of buying up here is extremely weak. Let me just roll you through this. So on the weekly charts, we're seeing this resistance level kind of coming in, and these are important. I mean, we only get cyclical turns 2 or 3 times on the weekly chart on the indices a year. So this is an extremely important point. Dow, it's a pullback and a downtrend signal kind of gone off. We've had our exhaustion buying into the highs here. We've had our bounce back in. It's fairly, it's a decent amount of buying has brought us into this pullback level, but certainly not enough maybe to push us through. Nasdaq, same deal. The resistance level has gone off there. It's not a pullback and a downtrend signal because it's really close to that old support level. S&P 500, it's not gone off yet on this chart, but it's inches away. Russell, slightly different looking chart here, and it's still a couple of weeks from going off, but that's what I'm looking at. The weekly resistance kind of coming in, and all of a sudden, that means that the energy will just flip to the downside. In terms of trend lines, there we go. We had this consolidation zone just above the 1100 level. We kind of briefly went through it and then rocketed back up. We then went into an uptrend, and then over the last few days we were in another consolidation zone here between the rising and falling trend lines, and then with yesterday's activity, bang, we've fallen through that bottom trend line, so we're in a downtrend. In terms of better X trend on the daily chart here, this is at ES, so this is the day and night session. You can see we've had these two kind of extreme selling bars, exhaustion selling bars here, and we're just sitting at 1216.50 is kind of the level down here in terms of that support. And at the moment, overnight, we've bounced back up to 1233. So that's the level that's absolutely critical kind of going forward. If we close below that, then we're kind of going down. And on the weekly chart, just remember we are in this kind of downtrend, and we've had this as kind of pullback under the lip here, so we kind of tested back up into the 1300s and kind of got rejected and moving down. Trend oscillators, we were trying to buy this cluster of buying signals here, and of course we had turned down in the oscillator yesterday, so all of those exited. Mixture of selling and losing trades in terms of the better trend systems. Net, that was kind of down, so our equity curves kind of just turned down a little bit, but wasn't big damage in terms of the equity chart. And then better trend systems have started to signal short here. And on the 40,000, so the highest time frame tick chart bar chart, so 40,500 tick bar chart, this last leg up, what was interesting about this last leg up was it was a complex correction all the way from an exhaustion selling signal, and we kept on powering through. We had kind of midway another exhaustion selling signal that gave us enough juice to kind of keep going with a bullish divergence signal here that kind of kept going. And what these means is that all the sellers have sold at that point, and so that allows us to have a bounce from those levels into an exhaustion buying signal, which was kind of the peak of the market on the Tuesday night. And so from there we had exhaustion buying signal here, which mirrors the exhaustion selling signals that we've got, and all the blue professional bars kind of came in, and then overnight it just kind of collapsed. Now on the downside here we have had exhaustion selling with yesterday's activity, so temporarily we've had all the sellers have sold. So let's see what kind of bottoming activity can go on, and if we get a rally starting to build from here. If this kind of 1216 level doesn't hold, then we're kind of going through the 13,500 tip bar chart. You can see into Tuesday's high, it was a whole bunch of blue professional bars up there at the 1280s coming in. It was we had those 2 days where we bounced kind of midday through on the Monday and the Tuesday, because we had all the sellers had sold kind of midway reversals. Same thing on Tuesday, all the sellers had sold midday reversal, and then the buying that went in, a lot of blue professional bars, but very weak at the top of that market there, and then we collapsed. So on the 13,500 tip bar chart, we're starting to put in these kind of divergence patterns, but I like to see a selling signal that's kind of midway between these divergence patterns, close to the zero line, and the exhaustion selling. So I don't think we're down on finished in terms of that kind of flushing out signal here. And on the 4,500 tip bar chart, you can see the activity. So that was all those blue professional bars into the close on Tuesday, just tons of them. And again, that buying was really weak after having those kind of exhaustion selling signals midday on Monday and then Tuesday into that. And so we had, and then midday yesterday, we had a little bit of a rally back up into the 1250s, but we had exhaustion buying, ran out of buyers, and we turned down and kind of continued into a pullback to dirty end of trend signal down here. Certainly had this kind of selling volume in, but I think we're going to have another lurch down into this area in terms of better momentum. I've not kind of taught big picture charts because they've been very mixed signals. Crude oil has been very bullish kind of going forward, and a lot of the other markets have been just in a quandary as to which way to go. and I think that just kind of sums up the situation over the last 2 weeks. The market's trying to figure out which way to break. Dollar index, though, with yesterday's activity comes a little bit clearer. So we had exhaustion selling down back into 75, testing back in, bullish divergence, blue professional bar, and we rally from there. Moving into this last day's move, you can see this is amateur down bars into that. So that's kind of a bullish flag leading this move kind of out of here, and we're just at cyclical resistance on the daily chart. So the question is this going to get rejected, or are we going to move into a trend move above here? On the euro chart, we're kind of a little bit more convincing in terms of the break below support. So we're down at 35s now, after coming back into 42 with blue professional bars up here, but bearish divergence, weak buying, and we've kind of settled back through. That was kind of an amateur bar, almost a doji pattern there, kind of midway through this move, and so we've broken through support. And on the weekly chart, you can see it's almost like the equities charts, where we've come back to the pullback level, pullback support becomes resistance at this point, and we move on through. So we had almost like capitulation volume down at $1.20 mid last year on the weekly chart, and we've been basing back up or moving back up, testing 145, but extremely weak buying at 145, and this whole family of no demand patterns at 145. I mean, it just shows the lack of confidence in the euro, and so we're moving back down. So I just particularly sitting here in Europe, there ain't no good news. It's like there's and people are worried about the worst. So I find it difficult to imagine that was kind of capitulation volume yesterday, and that was the end of the move, and we'll bounce into an uptrend from here. I mean, I suppose uptrends do begin when all the news is bad, but from a volume perspective, that wasn't kind of capitulation volume. We're at this level on the the weekly charts. Weekly charts in terms of a flip in cycle energy, and I can't help but think we're going to be heading back down. But I'm the biggest bear out there. Anyway, there we go. A little bit of recap of charts. Not been doing too badly on my trading. Took Tuesday off because it was Mrs. Emini-Watch's birthday, and we had fun. Yesterday was a big day. Got myself in trouble in the first few trades. I ended up down 6 3/4 just because I was trying to buy the bottom into that kind of bottoming action, but then managed to pull it around and came out with 3.5 points after 6 trades, so that's not bad. There was a lot more in it and wasn't trading particularly well, but after the meat of the move happened in the overnight session, and so it was kind of choppy trading until that second lurch down in the afternoon. Anyway, so hope your trading is going well, and looking forward to the next couple of days.